only on Comics with Dan. This is my new intro because StreamYard took my videos away. I have a very special guest tonight, Carlos Yacolca, who is the writer of Before We Sail, which is being published only in Aces Weekly, the online comics magazine by V for Vendetta artist David Lloyd. So very excited to have him here. Carlos, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah,
well, thank you, Dan, and thank you to all the people that watch the show. We will have also Alberto Rayo, and Alberto will join in some minutes. He's finishing some things. Because right now, here in our country, we have like a book event. It's like an annual book event. La feria del libro. So yeah, he was there checking something. So right now,
nice.
Just a minute and he will be there.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Before we sail.
There we go. Before we sail. Yes. So before we sail, right? So Carlos reached out to me and was telling me about Before We Sail, and the first thing that I found interesting was he told me about Aces Weekly. So you told me about Aces Weekly, and it's this online comics magazine, right? So no print, right?
Exactly.
And it's a weekly. The new comics release weekly. Can you tell me a little bit about this, about Aces Weekly, and kind of what people can expect from subscribing to Aces Weekly?
Okay, yeah. First, thank you so much for having me here. Aces Weekly is like we can understand it as a successor of 2000 AD, to heavy metal. It has the same vibe of this UK magazine, really. Because because Aces Weekly is commanded by David Lloyd, and he curates these comics that sometimes are one shot of myself, no, as this comic that I am making, or are serialized. And so these are not only talent from the UK. There are a lot of talents from Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, from France, from Italy, and from all around the world. So it's because when David Lloyd go to conventions, he are like seeing fire in some people, and they say, okay, make comics. so that was my case, really. I reached contact with Lloyd when he came to Peru 2 months ago. To that point, I was making something with Rayo, and David Lloyd liked the idea. So 3 years later, we have Before We Sail.
There we go. So Alberto just joined us. Welcome, Alberto. How's it going?
Hi. Can you listen to me? Okay, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Carlos was just telling us about sort of the origins of Aces Weekly, and also how Before We Sail got to Aces Weekly. So some good stuff there, and I love that the kind of the way you described it was that David Lloyd just was like, he just wants people to make comics. He wants people to make not just comics but good comics, right? And so if he sees talent in somebody, then he pulls them in. And so obviously he saw that in you guys for sure, because this I got to read all the chapters. That's what I'm excited about. But especially in these first couple chapters that are now available on Aces Weekly of Before We Sail, he obviously saw something in that, because you guys delivered something great there for sure.
Thank you so much.
So can you, Carlos, give just like a quick little description of what Before We Sail is about? You know, if you were to try to pull somebody in and somebody says, I want you to convince me to read Before We Sail, you have a minute, go.
Well, Rayo is the better one as I describe it, but I will say before passing to him the torch is that it's my presentation of me and Michelle, of who we are and what ideas we want to bring to the comics, and what seeds we are putting now to develop later. It's like it's a declaration of intentions. And well, Rayo, you continue.
All right, so you've got a very genre classic story, which is the post-apocalyptic you have to survive, which only I think what we are bringing to the table is that it's on Peru. It has a different context. It has a different scenario. It's on a, and it's also about the sea, about the coast, about this happening so near to the water that it's and it has a different objective. They want to leave the land and basically explore the sea to escape. There's a clear objective, which is not that. It's a bit different than most zombie projects. That there are more like we have to find out how to survive, and then we go to get it. Okay, that's the above story. I think what most stories, good stories, are like compressed by two stories: the above one and the subliminal one, or the thematic one. As the above story, the below story, the thematic one is about how do you remain sane, remain suited during the post-apocalypse. How do you get therapy? How do you get medicine? Also, why are you even trying to remain sane during an insane time? If it even just, that's the story. The central core thematic element of Before We Sail is a mental health story, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes across in those chapters absolutely. The sort of the both facets of it that you just described, and I mean, like you said, post-apocalyptic stories, like they're not anything new, right? I mean, we have all kinds of those, but the fact that the setting's in Lima, right? That's a big differentiating factor, I felt, right? Because, it definitely changes the way that the characters would approach things, right? I mean, like you said, like I can't imagine that being in Peru and trying to escape inland would do much good whenever there's probably even more of these undead zombies, whatever they're being described as, right? There's probably even more of them in there. So the whole escaping out to sea thing, I mean, it's very, very unique to a place like Peru that's very coastal. So now, so like how important was it to you to make sure that you include these sort of differentiating aspects to your story, such as like the setting of Peru, the sort of piracy angle of things where, you have these gangs kind of butting heads, and kind of like looting and stealing. What was the how important was it to include these aspects in your story?
Well,
there we go.
Okay. What was
the
question? Sorry? No. I was back. Only I was fixing the camera. But what was the question really?
Yeah, it's just the things that set Before We Sail apart from other post-apocalyptic stories, such as the piracy sort of thing where people are gangs are butting heads and robbing, and then also the setting of Lima, Peru. Like, how important was it to you to make sure that those aspects came through in your story to kind of set it apart?
Well, in a way, I just wanted to use Lima because I know the place. It's not because I want to represent something there. In a way, if I really want to represent aspects of living here, or what is being here in Latin America, you could say that it's the feeling of no future, in a way, of what we can build here that is worth build something here, because in a way, you could say that other countries are more developed, are more had better attributions that countries from Latin America, or I don't know. But the thing is that I want to catch this feeling of no hope or no future, and how we can start building something when it is the end of the war, in a way.
Right. And so
yeah, it's very.
I wanted, no, I mean
it's the pure ideas.
I want to double check something because I don't want to give a spoiler, but I want to bring something up that I think would be really good to touch on.
Yeah, we are right now in chapter 3. Yeah.
Yes.
When the zombies are feeling more like Borderlands.
Right. And so the thing is based on like how I've read the story, like it chapter 3 leaves off and it starts to get hot after that. Not that it wasn't, exciting before, but like I feel like 3 is that impact point. Or at least the beginning of it. And so let me see here. I just want to make sure that I I think I should be able to say it without spoiling anything. So the one thing that you did mention, or that gets mentioned in the story, is about the scarcity of weapons and, mostly the weapons, right? Jonathan goes through and talks about how he can find bullets, but not guns to shoot them, right?
Yeah.
And then,
for example, used to continue. Use explaining commentary. For example, in the USA, you could say that every person in his house has a weapon. Where we don't have that.
Right.
We don't
have that. And so I think I don't remember which character says it, but one of them even says like the United States was prepared for this because everyone had a gun in their house. So so I mean I like that, and it's like it's darkly funny, but it's funny, and it's but also a good like differentiator for the setting, right? Like you're right, a post-apocalyptic story set in the United States would never have that problem, right? That's not a hurdle that they would have to overcome. So I really liked that part. I felt that it was a good attention to detail there. So I like that a lot. And so who I'll say are the two main characters, at least as far as anyone who's read chapters 1, 2, or 3 is concerned, Kath and Jonathan, right? They seem to have already been through quite a lot together, even before. Like, right in the opening pages, right? They're sort of beaten up and bloodied, and they're just like this isn't. They're kind of right in the middle of things when we start, right? But we still see that they're learning to trust each other, right?
Exactly.
do you feel that with how uncertain like a post-apocalyptic world is, and even how in a different way our current world is uncertain, right? Can you draw parallels between how Jonathan and Kath look at each other and how people in real life should or do look at each other in terms of trusting but working, or cautious but working towards trust? Like, what kind of parallels can you draw there?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Well, in Peru, we have this saying always that the Peruvian always want to be like the people that win the that win the other one. We don't trust really each other in a way. We are not really have that. So I want to put that really in like in the work. Because also with how you can trust someone that you see like you don't see her before never, but you have this feeling that maybe he is not so bad. That is the answer. It's not so bad. Because in a way Jonathan are searching his way to gain some significance or some value in his life, while Kat is more constructed, have a clear idea where she wants to go. So for Kat trusting to Jonathan is like, well, is the lesser evil in a way. Is the least person right now at the moment that, well, at least it's not going to kill me. And that is really we I think that the most you grow up you start to select some people, only some people, and then trust them. And they're like, okay, you are my group, we are going to grow and something. So I was thinking something like that, but obviously to the end I want to express this like we have to build something new, we have to build new ideas, we have to build new genres, we have to build new way of trust each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's it.
Absolutely. No, that I mean that makes sense, and it's cool to look at it as I mean, because even like you said, like it's almost sort of like a cultural thing, right? To where you said that like in Peru it's you don't initially trust, but you have your core group, right? You know, and so how can you have a core group of friends, of people, when there's almost nobody left, right? in the world. So I can see how that would be a kind of a unique challenge, right? And so Alberto, do you feel like from the standpoint as an editor, right? When you were looking at what Carlos was kind of providing for the story and everything, did you feel that this sort of trust and ability to rely on others was sort of a recurring theme throughout the story, or was this something that kind of just happened as a side out of the other kind of elements that you had discussed before?
Of course, I mean, there is always this positive message that it's a bit intrinsic on storytelling when you have characters having how do you call it, like defects, being egotist, and it's a bit you have this character at the beginning of the story acting a bit egotist, acting a bit insecure, and it's obvious where it is going. It's obvious that it's about overcoming that mentality, overcoming that insecurity to be able to actually defeat an opponent, or overcome a hurdle, overcome an obstacle, thanks to that, how do you call it? Thanks to that virtue, thanks to that, uh, thanks to worrying about the others and not the opposite. It's never because of their defects at the moment that they overcome whatever they have to overcome the plot. It's by worrying, it's by uh, taking care of that insecurity and uh, making decisions. So yeah, when that's happens a lot of stories actually. Um, there are writers that uh, forget to make their characters change. Don't let their characters grow in the story. They are focused on plot, and they think their characters are just players to that plot, and they just happen things just happen to them, and they go back. That's wrong storytelling, and that was something that we have to work so this doesn't happen at the beginning. Back when we were like just make building the world building uh, right before the first speech was made. The central story was still focused on mental health, although it was less literal. Before it was about what does he have to make to break a man. In this time, it was how do you actually mend yourself. So yes, this was initial in not just the writing, it was in how do you construct a character and let the character grow in your story, change, and be able to earn that change, to let that change be decisive, how do you call it? To be important, so you can, so the character can either win on or overcome the obstacle that the plot has ready for them. That's important, and it was from the beginning.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and I think you hit the nail on the head with how a lot of writers do forget to let their characters change. And like you look at like very mainstream, mainline, like superhero comics, right? Where a lot of times a writer just has a story and they just drop people into their sandboxes to play with, right? And very clearly not what happens here. And you can even see it in just the first 3 chapters, right? It doesn't take the full, although I wouldn't say this is a spoiler, but the growth continues, the character growth continues after the 3rd chapter. So but you can even see it in the first 3 chapters that's the case. So that both Jonathan and Kath are growing throughout this process. So yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And so, Carlos, you have, my understanding is you've operated your own comic shop in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a wild story.
Well, I mean, I find that, extremely admirable, and because it takes such a big passion for comics themselves to even go into something like that, right? And so, I mean, even just apart from just loving the medium of comics, what about Before We Sail do you feel lends itself well to being sort of serial in nature, right? Having these segmented installments rather than a published all at once graphic novel, or even in some other medium like a regular novella without it being a graphic novella, or what do you feel lets Before We Sail succeed as a comic?
Okay, well, firstly, I think that 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 the comics are one of the best art ever made, and that with all the tools used correctly, you can impact a lot of areas and emotions and effects. So, with that in mind, I made this series. Yeah, I made this as a one shot or as a seven as a chapters as a way of I going to use the tools of the comic to tell this story. Because I don't because for example some other person asked me you think for an adaptation or blah blah blah, and I was thinking like, well, no, and if if that happens, I will think that the that the story will need a lot of changes because this story only works right now as a comic because use all the elements, and also these elements make this story even better.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, I will only make comics. I don't care about other type of art really. Well, with that said, why Aces Weekly is in a way it was because it was a door that was open to me, like an opportunity. Like I have to take this route right now, because I will never have this opportunity again.
Mm-hmm.
And with that came this like, okay, I will have to make a story on 4 pages, on 3 pages, on 5 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like I have to I have to succeed that. I have to make this good. Because even with the start, I was with the thinking of I have to get better. Because this is really my first work. So I have to get better. And for example, when I pass to Rayo the first scripts for the first chapters, let's say chapter 1 have like 5 pages. I send them to Rayo, and Rayo send them back with 30 40 points that I have to fix. And that wasn't only one way. No, one time was 2, 3, 4, 6, 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way of working, I was knowing that I was getting better.
Mm.
And also these kind of situations of make a story short but good is a way of thinking that if you don't make a good story only in 4 pages, you will not gonna make it on 20 pages or on 50 pages. You have to start small in a way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, working with the real estate, so to speak, that you have, I think is absolutely an important thing to do, especially because, and this I would say applies in a different way to like print comics than it would for something like Before We Sail. But with print comics, it's, I mean, the fact that a single issue that's 23 pages is $5 for one issue, American dollar. I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
that's too much, basically. But the you have to keep it to a certain page number, otherwise, like you'd have all 40-page comics. All of them would be twice as expensive. And so, yeah, you have to be able to work within the bounds of what you have. And so for Before We Sail, I mean, I really liked the pacing of how you split these up, right? It didn't feel like you had a whole story and then just chopped it into 7 pieces. It really felt like a like you had a very natural segue between chapters. And I really loved how each chapter ends at a point where like I don't know, I'm glad I didn't have to wait a week for every single chapter because I wanted to get to the next one. So
thank you so much. Kind of working on the pacing, obviously. I was my intention that I feel like I don't really achieve is that every chapter feel like a music genre.
Like a music genre.
Exactly. So
okay.
I feel like I only achieved that in the chapter 6 and 7 that it doesn't out that it doesn't out yet, but I could say that chapter 6 is like free jazz and chapter 7 is like post rock, like the Godspeed You Black Emperor, like the long violin and the guitars. But also but that also was a working between me and Michelle, because when we have the script approved by Rayo and by Lloyd, we usually went to a cafe and we analyze how we are gonna put these panels, how they are gonna be in the page, how they are gonna flow, so we can have a perfect reading in a way. So yeah, that was a lot of work really. We want everything to be as much perfect as we can.
Yeah. Well, so that's interesting. So then, if you could recommend, I want both of you to answer this one. If you could recommend a song or an album to listen to while reading Before We Sail, what would it be?
I don't know. I think that lift your skinny hands like antennas to heaven from Godspeed You Black Emperor. Could be one. Yeah, for the people that doesn't know, that album was one of the post rock most most loved albums that came out from 2001. And if you go to Rayo Music, all the people love that album. So yeah, that is post rock. If you listen to that album, you listen to the core of post rock.
Okay.
And Alberto?
So it says by Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Exactly. Yeah, Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Yeah. Okay. I found it. I'll be listening to that later for sure.
Well, those tracks are very long. Are like tracks from tracks that are 20 minutes, 13 minutes, 40 minutes, but they take care of that. Post rock are like a B-road from progressive rock, because post rock is the most are like constructing wall of sound and something like that. Well, I will stop talking about music, but I really like music. So okay, go ahead, Ryan.
I would recommend the first My Bloody Valentine album. I would recommend the On the Third Day by Electric Light Orchestra, and I will also recommend any shoegaze in full instrumental, no vocals album. Maybe some sort of stereo for that. Those they had some shoegaze albums with few little vocals. I think these are Argentinian bands, so the stereo. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it until you mentioned the music genre thing, but yeah, I think I'd have to kind of rethink. It's definitely I think something maybe more instrumental. But yeah, no, I think.
Oh, there's another one. Obviously the soundtrack of 28 Days Later.
Oh, okay.
That's a perfect soundtrack for every zombie comic, I think.
Okay. Let me see if because I know that movie. I'm just trying to think of the songs on the soundtrack.
It's like it's the most crescendo about the tension.
That's funny. Yeah, you can just hum it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that I think that would fit well. But so I guess Carlos, I've heard you refer to Alberto as Rayo a few times. Do you prefer that I call you Rayo or Alberto, or do you? I realize we're 37 minutes in, and I finally ask you, what do you want me to call you?
Rayo. Well, Rayo's okay. Rayo. So if
Rayo is lighting Rayo in English.
It's a sort. It's a name.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a plain name of how I write, how I edit, how I present me to the comic world, basically.
Alberto Lighting, as you can say to him.
There you go, Alberto Lighting. that's a cool thing. I mean, that's cool sounding to me. But so when you're working with a writer, right, in your capacity as editor, who has a very clear, vision and passion for what the work that they're doing, like Carlos does, how do you approach balancing sort of letting him tackle the story that he wants to tell, but also making sure that you keep your editorial hat on and making sure the finished product is like primed for the audience, right? Like Carlos said that you had no shortage of notes for him, which I mean, exactly. I think is probably essential. But yeah,
I probably didn't respect his vision at all. I didn't. I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
But we have to change.
But as good as you can have a message, story, and vision, it has to be a story. I don't care about the theme, about what do you want to tell if you don't tell it well. Because you are going to make a disservice to your own message in general, to every time you write. Even if your message is interesting and anything, the way you tell the story is more important, because you can make your message to backfire completely. You have your character like take your message, leave your message, and have the character win in your story, and people can consider it like, oh, so that sucks. So that's not it. It's important that your character wins by, well, that's a very reductive way of thinking fiction, but let's just put it that way. You have your character's ideas and you have your antagonist's ideas. You can't have your character's ideas win just by a trick, just by a a coincidence or just by plot happening, so he can win because it's inherently superior. You have to actually prove that during the story. You have to have your character to be how do you call it? Debated? No, not debated. Like a challenge on that kind. So that your message can be effectively driven through the story. If not, there are a lot of messages that are lost within the story because you just have to make it happen. So yes, I think message goes second. That's why I mentioned the above story, the below story. The below one is the one with the themes, with their message, with the how do you call it? With the core intentions of the story are below. You don't throw it away to the face to the reader. There are some people that do and work, but I think there are more like the exception, and you must never try to be the exception. Exceptions are the exception because they just happen to be. They didn't meant it to be, and they probably aren't the exception every time they are. So yes, I think it's important to learn the basics of writing so you can break the rules later. And you have to break the rules, you must to know why does it work. You have to have played with it a lot of times. You have to be tired of that little cage so you can actually break the little cage. So yes, we at the beginning I have the message that he wanted to tell, and I was more focused on the story, on how do you happen your characters to survive, to win, and how do you every writer has heard of Kill Your Darlings, and that's important lessons to make, not because it's about just letting go. If most like it's about what are you willing to sacrifice so your story can be actually a story. What are you willing to? Are you letting go of your what you think is really well written, so can what actually is well written is brought to the reader, and it's also from an editor point of view. It's also as how do you call it a proof that that the uh, that the writer and the artist in general, the artist, every part of this comic is ready and professional to make confessions, which is important in art.
Yeah. Now, I mean, like a number of times where I've read, whether it's a book or watched a movie or read a comic or whatever, that I felt like, well, I really liked the idea. It was a really good idea, but then I sort of felt disappointed by the execution. I think that's kind of exactly what you're saying, is that it doesn't matter how good of a story you have. If you tell it poorly, then it doesn't matter. So, no, I mean,
if I can add really something,
yeah.
If I can add something, well, from a writer, the perspective that work with an editor. Well, in this case, two editors. I think that one of the important things is that you have to kill your ego in a way. You have to accept the changes. You have to know that being you a beginner, you have to take them and see them as a way of thinking outside of the box. Like, okay, I have to make this different. How I can make this different, and how I can make this different and also work. and that was a lot of times when we were making this.
Yeah, and so then like how do you know when to just take notes and the notes that you receive and apply them kind of as Rayo gives them to you versus let's say he gives you a note that you feel isn't going to work in the story. Like how do you know when, I guess, to push back at all? I mean, do you ever push back? Like, is there a give and take in that kind of thing, right?
Well, it depends, because most of the I accept them, and also we have to think that the time of the writing, because the first was the time of the pitch. The pitching was almost 1 year. Was since May of 2023 until January of 2024, and then came the writing. The writing came to January of 2024 until the end of 2024. So really it was a long year on where I can, well, on where I also grow. So firstly, I accept all the changes, and then when we have more, like a complete, like a more concrete structure, I was more like debating some things in a way. When we were on chapter 6 and 7, that was where I was more like, okay, maybe we can go to this road. so, for example, chapter 7 was like how no, was me and Rayo pushing back and forth, like, okay, I want this chapter. I want this chapter of post rock. And Rayo was like saying that, like, it's anticlimactic, but yeah, we can make that. So yeah, it depends really. But I say that in the first stages, you have to accept most of them, really.
Right. Yeah.
In the first stages, most of them.
Yeah, and
I mean, you are going to say something, really?
Oh, not really. I'm just joking. I think at the end, yeah, the nument is important for the story. I just needs to keep interesting as through developments. But yes, the nument is an important part of stories. Just wanted to add, in general, this is a general tip, like, for writers that are just beginning. Don't make flashbacks.
Yeah,
Don't use flashbacks. It's like cheating. It's like oh, you need to tell something right now. Well, you should have told it before.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
Yeah.
So now you're cheating. You're interrupting my reading with your flashback out of nowhere. And a lot of writers will realize that when writing, they realize, I think there's something wrong, but it's tiring. It's tiring to write. So they just, like, sometimes they wing it, and that's the worst part you can do with writing, because writing is the most, the less demanding work hour, man hour part of making a comic. So that's where you must to invest more, because an hour, one more hour of working in script makes more than 1 hour working in the art or the colors, because 1 hour working in script can change a lot of the story. So yes, it's really another thing, like, some writers might recognize, is that when you have a character finding out by just being there at the exact moment when a certain conversation takes place, or just finding out about something because he just turned the television and it was on, or this is the most egregious one, entering to having no escape from one place or not wait to access a place, and they went through the vents. That's, I mean, if you have to resort to that, you are already making something wrong with your story.
Yeah.
So you need to backtrack and avoid those cheats, which I called. Obviously, you can make them, you can do it, you can write them, but are you? Is the story controlling you, and you don't have control about it? So now you have to. Oh, I had to make the character go to that place, but I mentioned that it was impenetrable. How do I make it? Oh, vents. Right. Well, you are not wrong at the moment. You were wrong before, so you have to rewrite. So you don't have to resort to these cheap tropes.
Yeah. And then I mean, like,
Rayo. You continue.
I was just gonna say that's why you write with a pencil, or you type the things that you can backspace, because
that's why
like
I write with Excel. I write in Excel so I can add a new row there to correct stuff.
I see his script. He writes in Excel. I see his script. It's so weird, but but Rayo makes really great comics. So yeah.
Okay.
It's a proof that he's right. It's a proof that he's right.
Yeah. No, that's
far more fiction has been written in Excel than in Word, I assure you.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah.
So it's being published in Aces Weekly, as we've said, right? I really liked that you compared it to sort of this day and age's 2000 AD or heavy metal, right? I hadn't thought about that, but now that you mention it, I can definitely see the parallels there. You know, the subscription-based entertainment models are extremely prevalent now, mostly in like film and television, right? Like all the different streaming services. And obviously, like DC and Marvel have their subscription services for reading digital comics, but it's mostly just digital versions of their printed books, right? So where does Aces Weekly and comics like Before We Sail, where does it fit into the always evolving future of comics? Do you see more comics going in this kind of direction? Do you see them going in a completely different direction? Kind of what do you guys think about sort of the future of comics and where Before We Sail and the like fit in?
Okay, so this answer is maybe a little long, but I will shorten it the most I can. So first, first, I could say that comics, as Alan Moore say on his essay of Occupy Comics, that comics are the art of the working class since the 20th century, and with that, the little by little, through the years, we were losing that because the comics are more expensive nowadays. Maybe the manga are a little cheaper, and that's also is also because why the one person when see a flip of $5 and a manga of $10, that is like that, they buy the manga. Also, because it's on black and white. But the thing is that I see Aces Weekly as a way of comeback to that comeback as comics of the working class, by the working class and for the working class, because because it's basically $1 per week, and you have 6 comics, and also that David Lloyd brings talent from all different countries. So we are making this more globally, and also that it's not only for the USA. You can buy it anywhere. You can buy it from USA to the UK, France, Italy, Argentina, Spain, Peru, and more. And for example, maybe you see some of my posts that people from different countries are reviewing this comic. And that the intention is that the comics are for the working class, are cheap, and are globally. And also one thing that we have in our favor is that we don't also have to pay for paper, and we don't have to pay for distribution. And there are 2 big things that, well, as the church, will charge a lot of the prices here. So that is the main goal, I think, for Aces Weekly. It's like making the art for everyone. Yeah, the democratization of comics, of making comics, and also of reading comics. For example, as you said, I had a store here in Peru, so I had to bring the comics from the USA, but also those comics were also more expensive to buy here, because I also have to pay for the shipment, and also the money exchange is 4 times the dollar. So it's not really for the people that can buy every day. It's for the middle class, or for the upper class, really. And so in that way of thinking, we are making this for everyone, literally for everyone. Well, if you know English, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that.
You can see.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I mean, making comics for. I mean, I always love when comics are more accessible, whether it's to certain, like income classes, or to age groups, or whatever, right? Like there should be something for everyone, right? There should be something in comics for everybody. And so I think that you're absolutely right that this does that. You're utilizing all of the benefits of the digital age that we're in, right? I mean, the ability to in your email inbox, like, hey, new comics from Aces Weekly are here on Monday, right? And you're eliminating all of the expensive parts of, I guess maybe not all the expensive part, but I mean, the printing, the shipping, like that all drives up that cost a ton. So yeah, I mean, it's extremely efficient and gets comics in front of people, which, I mean, that at the end of the day, what more do you want than that?
Yeah, for example, when a comic goes out from the USA, let's say the last week, Captain American Y, one, by Chip Zdarsky. Well, here in Latin America, we also talk about those comics, but but a lot of those people that talk about those comics have to search to no legal ways to read it, because it's the only way, really. They have to pirate them to read them, because why can they do? The the comic stores are not really like a popular thing outside of Mexico and Argentina. So for the other countries of Spain language of America, of North and South America and Central America are like what we can do, really. And that is the thinking. When I check new music, because I'm a lover of music, I see music journalism also a lot. When the new Tyler album came out today, I see people all around the world talking about it. But when you publish only in the US, like you are you are like shorting this approach, or this, like, how, well, the word get out of my mind, but el alcance. That's, well, yeah. Rayo, help me with this.
Reach, or the how far does it go? How far does it reach your work?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So is that what is we try to reach everyone in a way.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it's I think that's the very best thing about digital comics. I mean, I don't know that I'd ever want digital comics to completely replace physical ones, but I'm more than happy to read digital comics, and I you know, I mean, you can get all kinds of digital comics that if I had to choose between reading a digital comic and reading no comics, then it's digital comics all the way. Like, so yeah, but okay. So that is about what I have. So before we sail, let me put the link to Aces Weekly.
I will say some words about Aces Weekly. Please, if you have the chance, give an opportunity to Aces Weekly, please. Because I tried. All these weeks I am trying to get Aces Weekly more noise, that more people know about Aces Weekly. Because, well, our comics is curated by David Lloyd. Where are you? Go read them. Go buy them. It's David Lloyd. What the fuck? So yeah. And if you don't like my comic, you can read a lot of other comics, really. We have in this month Sicarios, that is by a Chilean team. We have Lazarus, that is by an Spain team, and also 3 more comics. So yeah, give us a chance, please. And well, we are trying to making this. And also, if you are not from the USA, you can also read them. Because, as I said, you can buy them anywhere. I am from Peru. Rayo is from Peru. So you can buy them anywhere in the world, as long as you have internet and you know English. So yeah, if you see this this interview, you are you have the qualities to buy Aces Weekly.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah.
And, and like I said before, is that so like chapter 3 of Before We Sail is out today. It came out today. So if you subscribe to Aces Weekly and read Before We Sail chapters 1, 2, and 3, you will be primed and ready to go for when chapter 4 drops just next week, right? It's every week.
Sí, yes.
Yeah.
It's every Monday. Yeah. Basically, we have your the beginnings of your week covered. Because you on the Mondays you have Aces Weekly. On the Tuesdays you have all the mangas of the Shonen Jump. And in the Wednesdays you have all the American comics that come out.
Yeah.
So you have all those 3 days that you can have them with comics. So yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
We just need to find new comics for the other days of the week so I can have new comics every single day. And then
That's right.
And then my wallet will hate me.
Well, Aces Weekly.
But my cheapest day will be Monday, won't it? Yeah. So.
Yeah. And you have also in the Mondays the comics with that. Okay.
Yes, that's true. That's true. You could always just watch Monday Night Comics. And But. All right. Well, I really appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for talking with me about Before We Sail. Like I said, it's chapter for everyone watching. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are out now, and chapters 4 through 7 are coming soon every week. So make sure you go check it out. It's absolutely worth both your time and money. So, all right, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah. And well,